You ever have that one mate who just can't help themselves? You get a new haircut, suddenly you're a rock star. You try a new accent, and they repeat it back at you, louder and worse. You spill your coffee, and somehow that becomes the highlight of their entire day. They're not being nasty. They're not trying to upset you. They're just trying to have a laugh, but at your expense. And weirdly enough, if they didn't do it, you'd probably wonder if something was wrong. That kind of cheeky teasing is so common in Australia that we've got a classic expression for it: to take the mickey. So who's Mickey, and where are they taking him? Today, you're going to find out. G'day you mob, welcome to Aussie English. I'm your host Pete, and my objective here is to teach you guys the English spoken down under. So whether you want to sound like a fair dinkum Aussie, or you just want to understand what the flippin' hell we're on about when we're having a yarn, you've come to the right place. So sit back, grab a cuppa, and enjoy Aussie English. Let's go. G'day you mob, how's it going? Welcome back to this episode of Aussie English, the number one place for anyone and everyone wanting to learn Australian English. I'm your host Pete, and today we're going to be covering the Australian English expression to take the mickey. To take the mickey out of someone, to take the mickey. So anyway, I hope you guys are having a good day. I have just dropped my kids off at school. I'm recording this on a Monday, and it was interesting. We showed up and it was kind of like a few clouds in the sky, you know, a little overcast. But then all of a sudden, I've just put my kids' bags in their rooms. We've come out and I'm like, hey kids, you can go play for a little bit. You know, we've got 10 minutes before the bell goes, before the music starts playing that says you need to go to class. And it just started pissing down rain, like belting down, absolutely pouring, raining cats and dogs. The skies opened up and the water fell out. So that was interesting. It was like, yeah, there was no lead up. There was no like, okay, it's raining a little bit and now it's getting a little more intense and now it's getting really intense. It was just from 0 to 100. It was fine, nice and warm, bit humid, you know, a little overcast, and then just pissing down. So that was interesting. My kids were a little bit miffed. They were a little bit annoyed that they had to go to class without being able to play and run around as much as usual. But yeah, so that's been my morning. Anyway, don't forget, guys, before we get into today's episode, there will be a free downloadable PDF that you can get. The link will be in the description. You can also grab it on the Aussie English website on the page for this podcast episode. And it'll have the vocab we go over, the expression, and the pronunciation exercises in there for you to work on. If you want to level up your English whilst also supporting the podcast, please check out the premium podcast membership at aussieenglish.com.au/podcast. The link will be in the description as well. When you sign up, you'll get access to over 1,400 podcast episodes. You'll have bonus members-only episodes in there as well. There's loads of transcripts for the vast majority of podcast episodes so that you can read and listen at the same time. You can download them, print them out, take notes, learn all the vocab. You can see everything that you're hearing. You know, it's the best way to level up your listening comprehension, reading and listening at the same time. And you'll also have access to the premium podcast player on the website. So on each of these podcast pages, where you can see the text, you can pause, rewind, slow down, speed up, skip forward, skip backwards, everything like that using the premium podcast player. So once again, if you want to check that out and you want to support Aussie English and help me keep the lights on here at Aussie English Home Base, then go over to aussieenglish.com.au/podcast and check out the premium podcast membership. Okay, so as usual, let's get into the joke of the day. So smack the bird. Get it laughing, get that kookaburra singing, and prepare to piss yourselves. Prepare to laugh. Okay, so the joke of the day. I couldn't really work out how to tie this into Mickey, so I've come up with another one, all right? You're going to love this one. You're going to love it. What do you call a crocodile in a vest? What do you call a crocodile in a vest? You know, wearing a vest. An investigator. Did you get it? What do you call a crocodile in a vest? An investigator. So an investigator is someone who obviously, investigates things. I guess they're usually trying to solve crimes or problems, puzzles. They're investigating those things. And we're using this because I guess technically it's not an alligator, but the pun is on the word alligator and crocodile because these are similar animals. And having in vest and then a gator, like alligator in a vest, right? An alligator in a vest and investigator. So there you go. That's the joke. Why am I laughing so much? It's not that funny, Pete. Jeez. What do you call a crocodile in a vest? An investigator.
That was good, wasn't it? It was good for a bit of a giggle anyway.
Okay, so the words in the expression to take the mickey. Take the mickey. So take, this is a verb, to grab, to pick up, or in this case, to perform an action. So here it's part of the idiom meaning to do or to engage in something. So he took the chance to speak is a good example of using take to mean to perform an action, to engage in something. He took the chance to speak. I'm sure you'll know what the is. It's a definite article. It refers to something specific. In this case, the Mickey, right? The Mickey. Not just any Mickey, the Mickey. For example, the coffee's on the table. The one that I ordered. That's the coffee that I ordered. The coffee. Not just any coffee. Okay? The. And lastly, Mickey here. Now, this is an interesting one. Here, it's effectively slang, like a noun, for playful teasing or mocking someone, right? To take the mickey. To take the mickey. You don't really use it in any other sense besides this expression, and that is because it is rhyming slang. So it originates from Cockney rhyming slang. Mickey Bliss rhymes with piss. Quite often back in the day in Great Britain as well as in Australia, a lot of rhyming slang was used where you would often use a phrase or a single word that would rhyme with the target word that you were saying. Like when we say dead horse instead of tomato sauce. So sauce and horse. Horse rhymes with sauce, and so dead horse has become this like funny slang synonym for tomato sauce. Mickey Bliss here rhymes with piss, and in this case, the original phrase was to take the piss, meaning to mock or ridicule someone, to tease someone. And over time, they created this rhyming slang of to take the Mickey, where Mickey was standing in for Mickey Bliss, and Bliss, I guess, was standing in for piss, okay? So it's kind of a long story. It's kind of this weird game of almost Chinese whispers, we would call it, where, someone said something in someone's ear, then they say something else that's similar, then it's something else. The words all change. It doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense, but anyway. So the idea is, if you say someone's taking the mickey, they're taking the piss, they're teasing you, they're mocking you, they're making fun of someone, they're acting in a silly way or not taking something seriously, and occasionally in Australia it can be used to mean to trick or deceive someone. If you're shocked by someone trying to trick you, you might say to them, "Are you taking the piss, mate? Are you taking the piss? What are you doing? What are you doing?" Actually, take the mickey, right? I just use piss. To take the mickey. You're taking the mickey? So it's a little informal in English. It's common in Australia. I think it might also be used in New Zealand and Britain as well. You guys from those places will have to let me know. And other related terms are, as we've covered, to take the piss. This is a little stronger and ruder. Probably part of the reason we use mickey is so that we're not saying the word piss, which is, a swear word. Pull someone's leg. This is a more innocent version of teasing someone, joking around, or to stir someone up, stir someone. I'm just stirring you up, mate. I'm just stirring you up. I'm just teasing you. All right. So as usual, let's go through some examples of how I would use the expression to take the mickey in everyday Australian life. Okay. So example number 1, friendly mate banter. Friendly mate joking around, chatting to one another. Imagine a group of mates. They're catching up after work. One of them turns up wearing a brand new outfit, a loud shirt, bright shoes, clearly feeling confident. But before they even sit down, one of their mates looks them up and down and says, "Righto, when's the fashion show start?" Everyone laughs. The person in the outfit laughs too. They shake their head and say, "Yeah, all right, stop taking the mickey." No one's offended, no one's annoyed, it's just mates having a laugh. The kind of teasing that actually shows you're part of the group. That's taking the mickey at its best. Example number 2, right? A situation where you're not taking things too seriously. Picture an office meeting where the boss is trying to explain something important, maybe deadlines, budgets, serious stuff. But one person keeps whispering jokes, pulling faces, pretending to fall asleep every time the conversation gets boring. And after a while, the boss might stop and say, "Come on, stop taking the mickey. Pay attention. We've got to get through this. I know it's boring, but just stop taking the mickey. All right? Stop taking the mickey." The mood's still light, but the message is clear. Here, taking the mickey, it doesn't really mean friendly teasing. It means more not taking something seriously when you should be. All right, cut it out. Stop taking the mickey. Example number 3, accent copying. So imagine a group of friends chatting casually when one person starts telling a story. As they speak, someone else starts copying their accent. Maybe they've got a different English accent or they've got a foreign accent and it's there when they're speaking English. And this person is exaggerating every sound, they're overdoing it on purpose. The group might burst out laughing, making the storyteller feel, a little sad or upset or frustrated. So the person telling the story might pause, maybe they grin, maybe they say something like, "Oi, are you taking the mickey out of me? You taking the mickey? What's going on?" It's said with a smile, not anger, and everyone knows it's a joke. This is classic Aussie banter, playful mockery that brings people closer. As long as everyone's laughing though, there's a fine line between taking the mickey and being nasty and bullying someone. So hopefully now, guys, you understand the expression to take the mickey. It's used to describe mates' banter and good-natured teasing, but also sometimes moments of frustration when someone's being a bit too cheeky or they're not taking something serious enough, okay? But it all depends on tone, timing, and the relationship between you and the other person. Aussies love a laugh, but they also know when to pull up stumps and keep it friendly.
Would you like a Chardonnay, Kylie?
Kim, it's not Chardonnay. The correct pronunciation is Chardonnay.
Mum, it's French. The H is silent. Back me up here, Kylie.
So now that you understand the expression, guys, let's work on your Australian pronunciation skills. So today we're going to conjugate through the sentence, "Don't worry, I'm just taking the mickey." And then we'll go through the different pronouns, right? Don't worry, you're just taking the mickey. He's just taking the mickey. So we're going to practice that. So listen and repeat after me. Don't worry, I'm just taking the mickey. Don't worry, you're just taking the mickey. Don't worry, he's just taking the mickey. Don't worry, she's just taking the mickey. Don't worry, we're just taking the mickey. Don't worry, they're just taking the mickey. Don't worry, it's just taking the mickey. Good job, good job. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about stress in this sentence today. So you may notice taking, the word taking, the ing part, ing, actually gets reduced, given a schwa vowel sound, but also instead of the ng kind of ing sound, you'll hear an n sound. So instead of don't worry, I'm just taking the mickey, we can kind of speed this up and say it more naturally in Australian English by converting the ing sound into a sort of schwa and then an un sound. Okay? Have a listen. Here you go. Don't worry, I'm just taking the mickey. Taken the mickey. Taking the mickey. I'm just taking the mickey. You're just taking the mickey. Now you might be thinking, how do you know the difference between taking as taken or the past participle taken, as in like he has taken something? Technically, they sound the same. Like, objectively, if you just said the word taken, I wouldn't really know if you'd said taken with an EN or taken with an ING, but you've reduced that second syllable. The way that I know is based on the grammar in the sentence. So if I hear you saying, I am just taking the mickey, right? I'm just taking the mickey. Because you've used the auxiliary verb am in there, I know it has to be an ING word, right? A present participle. I'm just taking the mickey. Whereas if I'd heard, I've just taken the mickey, I have just taken the mickey, I would know, okay, now it's in the past, it's a past participle or for a perfect tense. So that's how we know. Quite often the grammar will tell you if something sounds the same as something else, usually the language has worked out a way so that the inference can be made by the person listening. They can work out what it is that you're saying. All right. And don't forget, guys, if you want to work on your Australian pronunciation, check out my Australian pronunciation course at aussieenglish.com.au/APC100. When you sign up, you'll learn how to use the International Phonetic Alphabet to learn how to improve your pronunciation on your own. You will also then go through in Section 2 all of the different sounds in Australian English, vowels and consonants. There's about 60 of them. And then in Section 3, you'll go through some really advanced lessons on connected speech, spoken English, how the sounds change, the secret sauce to sounding Australian. So again, if you want to check that out, go to aussieenglish.com.au/APC100. The link will be in the description. Okay, so now it's time for today's Aussie fact. And I thought, seeing as we had the expression, take the mickey, I was like, who in Australian history or Australian culture has the name Mick, Mickey, or Michael that I could talk about? The first person that came to my mind was famous Aussie surfer Mick Fanning. And he has had an interesting career and life, to say the least. So if you want to understand Australian humour, and why Australians love taking the mickey, look no further than legendary surfer Mick Fanning. Born in Penrith, New South Wales, and raised on Queensland's Gold Coast, Fanning grew up in classic Aussie surf culture. From a young age, he was obsessed with the ocean, spending countless hours chasing waves and competing in junior contests. His powerful, smooth surfing style eventually carried him onto the professional world tour, where he became one of Australia's greatest athletes. Fanning won 3 World Surf League world titles in 2007, 2009, and 2013, earning the nickname White Lightning for his speed and explosive turns. But what really made Australians love him wasn't just his success, it was his attitude. In Australia, even our biggest sports stars aren't safe from a bit of teasing. No matter how famous you are, your mates will still take the mickey out of you and you're expected to laugh along. And Mick Fanning showed exactly why. In 2015, during the J-Bay Open in South Africa, Fanning was attacked by a great white shark while sitting on his board waiting for a wave, live on international television too. Millions watched as he fought the shark off and escaped unharmed. It was terrifying. But afterwards, instead of acting like a hero or playing up the drama, Fanning handled it with calm humour and humility. Aussies immediately started joking about it, because that's what we do. When something unbelievable happens, we process it with humour. Even Mick himself laughed about the situation in interviews, showing he could take the mickey and have the mickey taken out of him without ego. That ability to stay grounded is deeply Australian. No matter how successful someone becomes, Australians tend to cut tall poppies down to size with humour. Teasing keeps people humble. It reminds everyone that we're all just humans having a crack. So Mick Fanning isn't just a surfing champion, he's a perfect example of Aussie culture. Tough, resilient, humble, and always ready for a laugh, even when life gets seriously heavy. Because in Australia, if people are taking the mickey out of you, it usually means you belong. So anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope that you check out the free PDF download. Remember, you can grab that. The link will be in the description or on the podcast website page. You can also join the premium podcast if you want to support what I do here and level up your English at the same time. Just go to aussieenglish.com.au/podcast. And besides that, thanks for tuning in, mate. Thanks for hanging out. And if we ever catch up in person, hopefully you guys take the mickey out of me a little bit. Anyway, thanks for joining me. See you next time. All right, that's it for today. If you found this one helpful, leaving a quick review really does help other learners find the podcast. And if you know someone who's learning Aussie English, feel free to share this episode with them too, mate. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one.